Welcome to the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. My name is Kimberly Jackson and I'm the Executive Director. And welcome today to our program on the Economic Series Part 2, Cultivating B Corps for People, Planet, and Posterity. Before we begin with our program, I'd like to share a little bit about the Institute and its purpose. The Institute was created by Congressman Bill Young as a think tank at our campus. We're located at the Seminole campus of St. Petersburg College. The goal and focus is to enhance, educate, and engage the community in robust discussions on social, political, and economic issues in a nonpartisan manner. Congressman Young sought to have continuing understanding of what the scope of government is and what we can do to engage our community better. We have a wonderful website with a bunch of information about who we are, our board members, and our events. We welcome and invite you to learn more about the Institute by going to our website. And of course, I'll be highlighting some of our events at the end of this program. Thank you so much. And please go to our Facebook page for more information. With that, I'd like to begin and introduce what we're doing as a new model for this season, which is having co-moderators who have expertise in a certain subject matter. So I'm honored today to work with Vinny Tafuro, who has joined us in our effort to do some of our economic series programs. Vinny Tafuro is a visionary, a thinker, a writer, an entrepreneur, futurist, and an economist, and he runs IEE, which is the co-partner for this event. Was in part of our conversations of getting to know each other through the community about having really strong conversations about where we take our future and to explore both sides of those issues. So thank you for your suggestion. Our speakers are quite seasoned as well. Our first speaker, Serena, is Madrid-born, bicultural world adventurer, and a Tai Chi instructor, thriving on creativity, curiosity, and connection. She's home-based in the sands of Miami Beach, and for the past 20 years, she's designed everything from magazines to handbags. She has art directed and brand developed for top-notch clients, including Bacardi Norwegian Cruise Line and the Center for Social Change. And she's on a mission to make a positive shift in the world, one purpose-driven at a brand at a time. As a certified B Corporation leader, and one of the few I might add during my research, and devotee, she believes that positive corporate culture and responsibility will shift the business ecosystem. Thank you. And our next speaker is Dan Bailey, who grew up in coffee growing regions and lived in many international settings throughout his life, which shaped his connections with coffee farming communities and concern for the environment. Through these passions, his company was formed in 2004 with the intention to create impact in coffee communities abroad. He's an importer, roaster, and purveyor of specialty coffee, and he's located in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. He is also a legal benefit corporation and recently achieved carbon and plastic neutrality, offsetting 100% of their carbon and plastic pollution. And thank you also, Dan, for joining us. And finally, we have Tanya Donati, who is a co-founder and managing partner of Mother Kombucha, a craft kombucha and beverage company located in St. Petersburg, Florida. A Mother operates with the mission to taste good, feel good, and do good, and was created with the benefit that what is healthy should also be delicious. Prior to founding Mother in 2014, she had an 18-year career as an occupational therapist where she worked with clients across all ages and backgrounds and founded and operated several therapy practices. She lives in St. Pete with her husband and their 2 children. Thank you each for coming and for speaking and for explaining what this is now that we have all of your bios down packed. So I'm going to ask Vinny to join the panel at this time and do a strong introduction about what B Corp certification is, and to engage the panel as they each do a small discussion before we engage in a question and answer period. If questions come to you during this time period, please don't hesitate to put your questions into the Q&A. We monitor them as we go. When we get to that section of the program, we will try to get to as many questions as possible. Thank you for joining us today. Vinny, it's yours.
Kim, thank you for that wonderful introduction and for this platform to bring information about economics and B corporations to the community. If you're not familiar with B Corp certification or benefit corporations, what they are, this is a legal definition of becoming a benefit corporation, is something that was passed by the Florida legislature in 2014 unanimously and signed into law by the governor that July. And what it does is B Corp certification and becoming a benefit corporation allows entrepreneurs and business leaders to voluntarily elect to choose this new format of operating their business that allows them to hit other metrics besides just financial statistics and financial reporting. So they report on their impact to the environment, to the community, as well as to their shareholders. And so it's a really, really interesting way of allowing businesses to do more, and that which is measured improves. And so B Lab gives tools to entrepreneurs to allow them to measure their impact in a really tangible way. So with that, I welcome all of you here today for the conversation, and want to start with each of you, and I'll start with you, Serena, to maybe give a little bit your B Corp story, what brought you to this, introduce a little bit about your business and how you got why B Corp certification was important to you.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Serena and I am in Miami Beach, and my B certified corporation is Creative G, and it's a branding agency. And in the world of marketing and advertising and promotion, and I spent 13 years at a media corporation. And I got to do a lot of great magazines and photo shoots, and it was all luxury stuff. And I guess one day I felt that I was using my talents to dupe people, as was the case in marketing. It still is for some companies. I didn't want to have that yucky feeling that I was using my talents to dupe people or to have corporations that weren't leaving a positive impact in the world. So I went out on my own, and I discovered B Corp, and I said that those are the people that I want to work with. So I became a B Corp myself in order to understand the journey and understand what the depths of it means, how to create that impact, how to measure that impact. And it was a long process, and it took me a year because I was a solopreneur at the time. And it took me about a year to get through the assessment and to finally become B certified. And it's been 4 years since that day. And I'm connecting more and more each day with other companies that are like-minded. And when I get to use my talents and do that work for these corporations, it's an inspiration to me, and I feel like I'm leaving a positive footprint in the world. So that's why I became a B Corp, and that's why I like to support other B Corps.
And Vinny, you're muted. That's the nice thing about having a co-moderator. You get a little help from time to time. Thank you.
Dan,
Say Dan or
Dan, to you, what brought you to become a B Corp, and what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you to be B Corp?
it's interesting listening to Serena. I think we all have like an inner theater, okay, that, you know, it's part of our upbringing, what we're exposed to. You know, I grew up in a Caribbean country in an island. I was around poverty. I actually went to school at coffee growing regions. So, you know, and then later in life, I think we all take on our career, and then things just aren't squaring up. You know, there's tension between our inner theater, and then, so that's kind of our story, or my story, and along with founding Amavita Coffee, which we did in 2004, I decided I couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. I needed to take action, you know. So, and that's kind of where we founded. We founded Amavita Coffee back then to really create impact abroad, work on international development projects, but through trade primarily, and then along with other kind of what we call collective impact products, but with the goal of improving sustainability within the coffee growers around the world. So that's the background. So we really didn't have a compass when we started. We just knew that, you know, the things that were important to our growers were certainly their income and their stability of income. Okay. We also knew over time, we learned how important, you know, even their own respecting their culture was, so they could actually live on their land and stay on their land without disrupting their land. We've also learned a lot about, you know, certainly in the last 5-10 years, how important climate change was to that. So that's, but we started and we didn't really have a compass, but our mission was really to be recognized as the best by our community, for our community, for the environment, for our employees, and for our growers. Okay, interesting enough, B Corp came along, and here was a compass. I think I discovered it by accident and said, "What is this?" And then all of a sudden, there's a kind of a playbook here that is going to help us and teach us how to become a better company. So it was something that we very easily embraced, and it filled in a lot of the stuff and gave us reassurance that these are some actions we can take to really improve. And then likewise, it's been a progression. I certainly can't say that we imagined in 2004 where we are today. And I don't know how we could have imagined it without the support and certainly the good practices that they have really allowed and shared with us, along with the other community. So we're, just to summarize, we're pretty happy with where it's going and how it's benefited us, and even looking ahead, we think it's going to continue to give us a compass as well.
Definitely agree with the compass scenario. Tanya, as our St. Petersburg pending B Corp, I want to hear your story and where you guys are in the process.
Sure. So, we are a St. Pete grown business, and we started out incredibly small, making our product in 10-gallon batches in a small commercial kitchen where we had a little corner that we worked in. But from the beginning, our values were really that we wanted all the products we use to be cleanly sourced, and we wanted what we created to be fairly made. And we were composting all of our teas in one of our founders' urban garden at his house. So a lot of the model of the B Corp certification we had already been putting into our business. And then about 2 or 3 years in, we went, myself and another partner went to a conscious capitalism event, and we found out what B Corp was. We didn't know about it at that time. And once we learned about it, it was like, okay, this is a way that as we grow and we go from being this tiny little local business to having a larger presence and potentially growing our brand and creating new product lines and bringing in outside investors, this is a way to bake in our values, protect what we believe is the way we should be doing business, and really find a voice for how to communicate that to our shareholders and the community at large. So we started working on the process. We started our first B assessment and was pretty daunting. But what it allowed us to do was really think more about new things we could be adding in as the company grew to be moving towards that B Corp status. So we started looking for other, specifically not just organic certified businesses to work with, but looking for other B Corp suppliers. And that's how we found our tea, kind of like Dan in the coffee business. Tea can be a problematic product. So it was always something that we wanted sourced fairly. So we found a B Corp tea supplier, and they're a regenerative farm, and they're raising women and children out of poverty in Bangladesh. And so that knowledge and understanding of what a B Corp was helped us guide us in growing our business while we were working towards that process. So we have been working with the University of Florida Business for Good Lab, and they have students, and they've been helping us with the process as far as the templates, and the other people on the panel, but maybe some people who are listening don't know what the process of becoming a B Corp is like, but it's complicated, and it's rigorous, and it's for a reason, so that when you have that symbol on your business website or your package, people know what you've gone through. So we're getting help from students, as well as Vinny and Jared have been helpful along the way through Florida for Good. And there's support out there. And then it just takes a lot of dedication and time to put all the systems in place. But we expect to have our B Corp certification hopefully by the summer. That's our hope and our goal. So.
Well, thank you for sharing, and thank all three of you for sharing your stories. I think it really is important to know what drives entrepreneurs to go through this rigorous process of being certified. It's not simple, but then it is a way of avoiding, marketing facades that don't, that expose the companies that don't walk the walk or walk the talk that they're making. Want to go to one of the questions that we discussed on why is there a lack of understanding and clear picture of what B Corps are? And I'll kind of open this to each of you, maybe starting with Serena, kind of go through in a loop. But what's happening when you talk about B Corps and people go, what is that? And why are they tripped up?
It's definitely here in Florida, especially, there's sort of a lack of knowledge of what a B Corp is and what it fully entails. Even a lot of people that think that they know what it is don't really understand what it is, because the first thing that comes to mind is that, oh, that's like a cross between a nonprofit and a profit. And it's not really the case. It is a for-profit business that just counts more than just the profit. So they're counting things, human capital and environmental impact as well. Why is it happening? I'm not sure. I know that California, for example, has, close to 300 B certified corporations, where we're in the 20s. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe just not growing up with it being around you, not having enough of them in the public eye. I lean a lot on the big corporations like the Aletas and the Patagonia when I'm talking to people about them, because they get it instantly what it is when they know those corporations. So we're here to educate.
Dan, your thoughts?
My thoughts are similar. I think there's a natural course to change that and this is really a global program. If you think, what is out, it's a complicated, for starters, it has a lot of layers to it, number one. Number two, it's going to take time. So, there's the groups that are advancing more probably have more catalysts in place, things that have actually helped elevate it. I think you mentioned California. They're probably maybe in a different stage of maturity than maybe Florida is. Really, when I speak of that, it's relative to the business community, relative to the government, as well as the academia. You really, from my view, it has to work on a lot of fronts, and education is the foundation of it that needs to be worked on. But it's going to take a lot of the different groups to help move that forward. And it's almost, to me, it's almost like there's a maturity model of 1 to 5. You have to go through 2, 3, and 4 before you're going to get to 5. And the only thing that can happen is how quick you can get there. But as a business community, as citizens, as academia, we all have to start to interconnect there, and it's going to move based on demand. Okay, and if you think about it from my view, academia, you're trying to shift a capitalist model that's been taught for the last 30 years. It's pretty much born out of Wharton, okay, or maybe a few other institutions. And that is the model. That is not going to be a quick shift, okay? I think the one common denominator that is that people are frustrated, okay, with what is going on within business, and certainly how it affects politics and the other individuals, whether it's community, the employees, or whether it's the environment. We're all kind of frustrated looking for a solution, and that's, to me, the strongest thing that B Corp has really not communicated, how they're going to solve the big stuff, okay? Which, in my opinion, it's the only thing we really have that is going to be super solid, that's going to bind us. We also believe that business drives government. Okay, that's just our opinion. Whether it's financial influence. So a lot of the things that are going to occur is going to be a shift in the way we do business with respect to all those other shareholders that we speak about: employees, community, environment. So, in short, we have to teach differently. We have to market differently to business communities. We need to work with government so we can get some incentives. We also need to work with academia to really shift what we need to teach business differently is what I'm really saying, and when we start to intersect that, I think we're going to start to see more progress. And last comment without taking it, I think B Corp itself had to mature and is still maturing, but it's not going away at this point. Okay. I think it's deep rooted, and I think it is probably stable enough that people are it's not going to disappear.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. And I'm going to adjust this as we go to Tanya, the academic side of this. And this is, you talk about, Cambridge, is one center of economic thinking, and Chicago and Wharton are another center of economic thinking. And here we have in Florida, we have the University of Florida and now USF, University of South Florida, both have B Lab programs. And so Tanya, as the most recent B Corp progress person here, working with those student programs, what does academia look like now? And as we bring this to the state college level as well?
Yeah, and I agree with what Dan was saying. I think that that's really key to growing awareness of B Corp in a way that these are the people that are going to go out. These are the people that are going to be leading businesses, leading corporations, making decisions. I think that the age group of kids that are in college, young adults, not kids, but young adults in college now, they do have a much more global sense of things than people that, I went to college in the 80s and 90s, and it was a different mindset. And I think that's really baking it into them and having an awareness that it is good for business, that doing good really is good for business, and having that understanding. Not only is it crucial and necessary for the survival of our planet, but it really is. I see it, especially from a CPG standpoint. I might see it differently if I was it's great to see the many different B Corps like marketing and attorneys and everything. But as a CPG, as a manufacturer, people want to know, they're skeptical of corporations and how businesses operate, and what are they doing, and how are they protecting the planet and their employees, and what are their policies. And if we can get it so that people understand, when they just that immediate recognition, like when you see other certifications, like when you see an organic bug or a vegan bug, you don't have to read it, you know exactly what it means. And once B Corp can get to that point, I think CPG is a great place, because everybody buys sodas and yogurts and all that, touches across all populations. And if that can become a bug that people recognize and they know what that means, that's an incredible way to get the message across to the general public and understand what it is, why they should be interested in it. And I think it would spread across to all different, it wouldn't just be for other people interested in manufacturing, but spread across to all levels of understanding. And it's going to take time, but I think the college level is a huge place to have the most impact.
And Vinny, if I may jump in, we have a visitor that I just wanted to acknowledge, along with many important people that always join us, including some of our board members. But we have an expert in the industry who is also a colleague and a dear friend of mine. His name is George Bandy, and he's the worldwide head of the circular economy of Amazon. And he's also the former chairman of the board for the United States Green Building Council. And so there were some questions about human impact. And when I was doing my research, I'm always asked, how are you coming up with these topics? Who are you talking to? And I try to talk to really a wide variety of individuals with differing ideologies to come up with these questions. And one of the questions that kept coming at me for people who don't really understand B Corps is, what is the human impact? Like fiscally, how is this impacting you? When we talk about minimum wage increases and our commitment in Florida, which is one of the questions that he submitted, which is the commitment to salary increase in Florida, what is it and how are we going to influence this from your respective lenses? So I'd like you each to comment on that as well. And thank you for your time, because I know he has a short time who wanted to join us today.
Dan, do you want to touch on that? I know we had talked briefly about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think with respect to minimum wage, I think we don't think it's good enough, and that it's not necessarily a one fits all. I think it's a good start, but I think when when companies start to look at their employees in from a broader perspective as a resource for their company rather than a body that needs to show up to work, then I think you'll start to, especially you can even look at that from a sense of risk. If they're not there, what is the risk to the company? So making sure that there's safety and security, it's important. It's beyond just pay. Okay, pay is one, that's certainly an important thing, but it's also what are the benefits that they have? What is it, we take a view of more of a compensation strategy. How do we ensure that our employees are healthy, not just when they lose money, but even from physical, mental duress, or, and then, and what I mean by one thing doesn't fit all, we have key employees, typically what you'd find in professional services, everything from salespeople to accountants to CPAs to everything. But we also have non-key employees, which really are they're working on our coffee manufacturing. They're working on our cafes as baristas, but they've got to live. They need a good quality of life that, and not just in compensation, but also being able to spend time with their families, being able to, if they do run into a financial distress, which is often ignored, if their car breaks down or they're things beyond, or if they have long-term or short-term disability issues, those are equally important. I think that often get left out of the equation. So we think minimum wage is a great start, but it needs to be more comprehensive. It also needs to be more comprehensive than just medical care. Okay. And that's our view of it. And we think you can balance it. The big disparity we see is clearly, I think United States in maybe 2019, the lowest paid employee, the highest paid employees was something like 270 times. Okay. How much do you really need as a leaders in your company? Okay. Yeah. So that I think needs to be rebalanced. We have it in our policies that our lowest paid employee will be no more than, our highest paid employee will be no more than 3 times our lowest paid employee, to give you an idea. Now that requires us as owners and leaders, key leaders, that doesn't mean that we can't have a great life, okay, but we're not living in excess, okay, as well. And what's interesting, it attracts a certain culture as well, but we still make very good income, but so do our employees, surprisingly, and I think you can make it work in the solution, in your model. Okay. We also have better retention rate. I think we have a very good productivity rate as well, because our employees are motivated, anyway, I'll stop there.
Tanya, how are you experiencing this in the St. Petersburg region?
Yeah, how you pay your employees and compensate them in other ways has, it has so much effect. And this B Corp process also is in a way, it's paying the employees beyond just health insurance and salary. The value, when your employees connect with the values of the business, that resonates with them. And knowing, because we started with no seed money, no background in manufacturing or business, so we didn't pay our employees very well. We never paid anybody minimum wage to do anything of the lowest jobs. But we always looked at how else can we compensate our employees? How can we make their lives better? How can we make things more flexible? So when we couldn't give a raise, we found a way to trade product with local yoga studios so that they could get free yoga classes. We made sure that their schedules, if at all possible, that they could have the most flexible schedule as long as their work was done, that we would allow any kind of flexibility to work around their needs, whether it was because they were in school or they had a child or because they weren't a morning person or whatever it was. So we always look at the compensation and the quality of life, and that we value them outside of the job that they do for our business as people, and how can we help them be happy and satisfied in their whole life and not just at work.
Thank you. I'm going to add a little bit. There is one of the things, and I don't know if you guys had gone through this about 4 years ago. I know because one of the questions that came in was on social equity and environmental justice. And I know, I think it was in 2017, B Lab. So when you get certified, you have 200 points that you can get. You have to score 80 out of 200 points. And one of the beautiful things about the B Corp assessment is there's all different things that you may not score well on this year that you can try next year. And I know on the social justice side, B Lab in 2017, they picked, I believe, 25 different questions on their assessment and challenged the B Corp community to improve on 3 of them in that next year. And so can any of you talk to that kind of improvement process or re-improvement process with B Corps?
So B Corp is always pushing to get better for every organization that's a member and certified to get better. And so they do these challenges like the one that you're talking about. So whoever is an involved member of the B Corp community, because it goes beyond certification, it really is part of a community. So there are some agencies that are more involved than others. I definitely took a hard look at that and said, what can I do within my business? And if it's not within my business, within my community to, hit these goals or to make a difference or make an impact. And even just taking the assessment. So even if you're not a B Corp, taking the B Corp assessment will open your eyes to how you are running your business because of the governance and what is going on and how are you treating your employees and what, and not just, it goes beyond the pay. Yeah, it includes things like, what's your policy for giving birth or breastfeeding or, LGBT, like, what are all your policies? And you might think to yourself, oh, no, my business is good. Like I'm doing the right thing, but do you have it in writing? Do your employees know? Where are you, so those are the kind of metrics that B Corp is always pushing you to show and to share.
Thank you so much for that, because as I'm listening and monitoring the chat, it looks like the totality is a bucket of everything. It's healthcare, it's physical education, it's health and wellness, it's corporate climate and environment. It's a way to, as Tanya indicated, sort of swap out services. If you can't provide those at that time or find an alternative solution, it's social support, it's education, it's other growth opportunities that make the totality of what you are referring to as a better climate in doing this assessment. Is that kind of accurate? Silence. We have to get to the Q&A. No one would disagree with that. We have to get to the Q&A because we do have some questions in there. And so Vinny, if you want to go in there and take a stab at some of the questions and direct it to the appropriate panelists.
I can hear. Right now we've got a question about whether or not there are tax advantages for B Corps. And this is something I guess I'm going to answer because I brought it to the attention of our panelists the other day. Our Institute for Economic Evolution and Florida for Good have created a joint committee to explore what the barriers to entry are and kind of some of these things. And we have discovered that certified B Corps and benefit corporations can expense charitable donations at 100% business expense, whereas a traditional C Corp or corporation for-profit entity, it's not a benefit corporation, is typically limited to 10% business expense. So there seems to be a significant opportunity there. But it's not very well explored yet. And it's going to be one of those things in a lot of businesses. More businesses do it and show how it worked for them. They'll be able to do it. So that was one of the questions I saw in there.
So I'll take some of the other questions. Stuart asks, can an LLC be certified as a B Corp? Can anyone answer that one?
I'll answer that because we're an LLC and we will be a certified B Corp, but not a benefit corporation in the state of Florida. It would require us to switch over to becoming a benefit corporation. So our corporate structure would not change. But yes, an LLC can become a B Corp.
And Tanya, while you're speaking, can you really talk about, from a practical standpoint, what the process was like for you to apply, to make the decision, and to get this far in the process?
Like I said earlier, it's been a long haul for us, mostly because of just the growing and exponentially growing very small business. We just didn't have any members of the team that could just dive into it and dedicate the amount of time it took. And it is rigorous for good reason. You can't just say, I have good practices, or I use fair hiring practices. You need to really extensively rebuild your employee training manual and your hiring manual and everything that goes along with it. And so for every single one of those points in the B assessment, to get the points that you need to become a B Corp, it requires it to be very well tracked and documented. So for us, it's really just been taking the things that we do and putting it into a tracking model. The nice thing is the Florida for Good has templates. The program through University of Florida, the students have helped us with templates, so we can customize those templates and make them our own, but they're helping us with the structure for putting the tracking in place, as well as connecting us with various resources here in Florida. We Are Neutral, which allows you to become carbon neutral. And it really, just the act of doing the assessment alone is so, if every business would just do the assessment without even committing to becoming a B Corp, they're going to gain valuable ideas on how they could really make some really crucial changes in their business without having to even go through the entire process, or maybe not ready to commit to it yet. So what it took for us, long story short, was to finally have a team member that we could say, okay, we've reached a point where this is what we have to focus on. And that person has basically carved out an extensive amount of their time for the next couple months to really just get everything in place. And I think it depends on the type of business that you run, the level of what it takes to document certain things gets a little more extensive. But it's proved to be an incredibly valuable experience along the whole process. It changed our business from the very beginning, a couple of years ago when we did the assessment initially, even though we didn't score anywhere near where we needed to be to get the actual certification.
Thank you for sharing. Vinny, do you want to take either Julie or Nick's question?
Yeah, I'll take Julie's question. It was about Julie is an LLC and was told to wait 1 year in business before we could apply for a B Corp. And was confused on whether they should become go through the certification process or focus on being a B Corp versus a C or S Corp. And so I think, can you answer that? I think you have to be in business at least 1 year to apply or to have some designation. I'm not sure if any of you can clarify that.
I'm pretty sure, this is Dan, that it's a year. Okay. Yeah. So, and we're an S Corp, if that helps. I mean, we were, yeah. So I'm just going to interject a comment there, but yeah, we're an S Corp. It works really well from that framework. And I just wanted to add a comment to the other one. As a founder, and I'm sure most everybody that's been through it, it's an emotional process. Okay, you see a lot of low-hanging fruit, and you say, yeah, we can do that right away. And then there's these other things, going through the assessment. And the reason I'm saying it, I wish I could communicate it that it's not a burden. It's actually a help. It actually helps you think through the company, the things that are really most important to you. Okay. The other thing, it becomes part of your strategy. It's not what you can do today. It's also what you can do, 3 years and 4 years and 5 years, because there's so much out there that you say, man, I'd love to do this now, but I just can't, either time constraint or capital. Okay. So whether you're an S Corp, seek a LLC, the assessment piece is really the beginning. And if you're a founder of a company or even a key employee in the company that's just passionate about it, it will keep you awake at night. Okay, trying to, and give you a great, in good ways and bad ways, but it's a good way to recalibrate your company so that you really have a better direction moving forward. Okay, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dan.
I'd like to add something just real quick for a new business. This is, if you were just starting a business and you have that year, now is the perfect time to take that B assessment and start putting everything in place, because then you will have structured your business around that model, and it would make it incredibly easier than waiting after the year after you've put things in place on the fly out of necessity. And you'd be, regardless of what kind of business you're in, you'd really be ready to probably submit your assessment and become certified very quickly at that point, because you would have spent that year building your business around that and thinking from the very beginning in that way.
Thank you, Tanya. I think of it similarly. It's the same way you keep your financial records in order before you start building credit for your business. And I think by going through the assessment from day one and having that in the back of your mind and on the discussion channels as you're building your business, it allows you, when you are ready at that year point, because that first year goes by fast. So it puts you in a better position.
We are doing this on a micro scale, right? On a micro scale, we're having robust conversations. Tanya is a perfect model in the community for how you not only have a successful business, how you change your practice model, and how you transition from another career and take all the steps. But the question, I think, was focusing on the larger picture of bigger businesses and how they're taking this on, and understanding that how do you get the business leaders more involved? So for clarity purposes.
This is Dan. I think when you'll find this is my view of when the people that are in the B corporate community, you just got on a really good train. Okay. All right. They're very supportive. And we were helped by King Arthur Flower, Danska. And part of the B Corp is to really improve your communities themselves. It's a responsibility. I think anybody that has a business in there, they give us permission to be there. Okay. And that part of that permission and the responsibility is to actually improve your own communities, So we kind of have a saying in our company, it's okay not to measure. Okay. You just know you're on the right train. Okay. And you serve when those opportunities, when it shows up. Okay. And that, so we actively try to speak to schools or certainly share it with other business community members, speak in the right settings. And this is part of the catalyst that when we talk about what are those catalysts that can actually help move the B Corp movement forward, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is B Corp owners, we have a responsibility to share it in all aspects of it, whether it's 1 million cuts, whether it's your best friend that's an influencer in the community. The other thing that we learned, I think, over time that we couldn't imagine in 2004 is that we have power. All businesses have power. The trick is, what do you do with it? And how do you use that power in a constructive way? Interesting enough, coffee houses have a lot of power. We have platforms. Okay, we look at them as a stage for our community to where we can disseminate information. We have people that gather. So I think the other thing, how can you help? I think businesses need to recognize that they have power. Okay, and they have a responsibility to share it.
Thank you for that answer. I appreciate it. Vinny?
I think, accessibility is going to be a big issue for finding out more information about becoming B Corps, becoming part of this. It's the community building. And I think, the fact that we have, our college system is starting to teach it. We're starting to provide mentorship to businesses that are trying to start that. And I think that's an area that I think all of us are trying to do within the movement of building community and just one by one sharing that. Because I think a lot of people, when they see Ben and Jerry's, they go, well, that's Ben and Jerry's. That's not for me. And I think what our panelists here today and what we're trying to do it's Diamond View Studio in Tampa. It's, Salt Palm Development in St. Pete. It is community neighbors of ours that have their businesses and are making this commitment. and sharing those stories.
Benny, I think you have some resources that you said you wanted to share. Do you want to go forward and share some of the resources?
Yeah, we've mentioned them a little bit throughout. Florida for Good is a statewide organization that helps kind of shepherd the causes of conscious capitalism, the B Corp movement, 1% for the planet, working on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And so floridaforgood.org is a great resource for all of these things. And then the University of Florida and USF both have programs within their business schools for getting into a program where the students will work with businesses as student intern consultancies, basically, to help the companies. So.
Tanya, Dan, or Serena, do you have any other additional resources that you want to share?
I would say if you're interested in the process, find some B Corp businesses that have been through it in your industry and reach out to them, because I have not had anyone who wouldn't talk or provide input or share, because as Dan was saying, not only do you feel it is our obligation, but it's something that business owners get excited about and get really jazzed about and get, want to provide that help. So they're not necessarily going to be able to walk you through the process, but they're going to have resources and suggestions and just be there for support throughout the process. So I think that that's a really easy, simple way to find a mentor, is just reach out to people within the community or within your field.
I want to second that. You can reach out to me anytime you want if it's about B Corp. I have walked through, local businesses and people that are interested. I also, on my own website, have resources, and I partner with Florida for Good. There's plenty of stuff out there. And honestly, I'm available. You can email me and I will answer you.
This is Dan. I'm going to triple that one as well, because it's, it dispels, I think the first reaction is this is complicated or I'm too small as an organization. And I think when you have a chat with somebody, they can kind of cut through the pattern, on what, we can eliminate those doubts that are there. More importantly, can encourage you and then support you. And I think everybody that's probably been to the B Corp movement, somebody has helped us, and it really is beneficial. But it'll get you from, A to Z a lot faster and actually make the process simpler.
Vinny, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up all of this, and thanking the panelists for sharing this information, and learned a lot. Tanya, particularly, I'm just in awe of your path. It's an excellent path to show any business person, regardless of what they're interested in, of what it means to really give back to a community. So thank you for being a leader in the community in that regard. Vinny, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank each of you for participating today and for helping. Like I said, community is built, one conversation at a time. And, the B Corp community is really competing to make the world a better place through business, through the free market, through the innovative ideas of entrepreneurs. And, it's been a long, the legislation was passed 6 years ago or so, almost 7 years ago now. And there's so much more to be done with this new vehicle. And I'm just glad for the platform with ISPS, and again, for each of you, and look forward to us continuing this conversation in the community. So thank you. You're muted, Kim.
Thank you. See, you have to help the co-moderator. Moderator helps the moderator. So we are going through series this spring, as we are still in this COVID environment and trying to figure out ways to educate the public. It's important that people understand that ISPS is a different vehicle, because our goal is to educate and engage the public and keep these platforms out there for people to continue the conversation. Our next conversation is guardianship. It's a 3-part series, and it's really to learn the intricacies of guardianship. Unfortunately, because of COVID related deaths, the industry has had a lot of questions about estate planning. And so that's our next program, and that happens to be tomorrow. Next slide, Kyle, please. And then next week, we are going to be finalizing and celebrating Black History Month with former Justice Peggy Quince, who is the first African-American female for the Florida Supreme Court. We're doing this in collaboration with Student Line Leadership for St. Petersburg College. And this is student driven, and we're really excited about that. So thank you. I think we have one more slide. We may have two. Our next series starts with health equity, and this is again a partnership with Leadership St. Pete Alumni Association. And we're going to do a 3-part healthcare equity series, one with also Dr. Coe of the Florida Department of Health, to talk about different ways that COVID has impacted us through 3 different lenses. Do we have one more slide, Kyle? I think we have our next guardianship series. And finally, I think I'm trying to get to the next slide. Well, that's it. We have a program also that we're working with on cybersecurity, and stay tuned for that. Of course, you can have all this information. You can register on our website, and please visit our Facebook page, go to our website, register, and share the word about learning more about different issues in the community that we should all care about. Thank you again, panelists, for your time, for taking the time to educate us all, and thank you, Vinny, for sharing this platform. Have a good one.